Hey everybody, Jeffrey Powers here from Geekazine.com. We've got a special 5-part series that we're going to do on a program that I use. It's called Wirecast, and you use it for creating video like this, the bottom thirds, and switching through cameras and all that other good stuff. We're going to talk about it right now on Geekazine special media feed. Hey everybody, Jeffrey Powers here from Geekazine over at www.geekazine.com. Geekazine's my Twitter handle, and of course you can find me over at geekazine.com. Geekazine at gmail.com if you want to email me and ask me any questions, so on and so forth. We're doing a special series, 5-part series on Wirecast, and of course we're going to get into the first part of the series here, and we're going to do a lot more. But first of all, this series is brought to you by Citrix and GoToAssist Express. Get yourself GoToAssist Express, put this into your IT toolbox. It's a great program. You can meet with people online and you can solve their problems instantly. It's a great program. Use it all the time, and you can use it on a Mac, you can use it on a PC. They got the HD faces so you can see people. They can control your screen. It's a training tool so you can train people like I'm doing with you guys right now, so on and so forth. Go over to gotoassist.com/podcast. Gotoassist.com/podcast for a 30-day free trial of that great software. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk a little bit of Wirecast in this part. Part 1, we're just going to go through the overview, what you see when you install Wirecast. Now, to begin with, we're going to go over to Wirecast's website, and that's over at telestream.net, which I didn't load up just yet. Let me just load that up really quick. There we go. And we'll just throw this into desktop too. And as basically I'm running on my Mac, but I also run on Windows. So you can see this on a Mac, you can see this on a Windows box, and it works pretty well on both ends. You get for the Mac end, you get a little bit more than the PC end, but not much to really make much of a difference. So I use it on PC. I used it on PC a lot longer than I used it on Mac. I haven't had too many real problems, just some little nuances and stuff like that. But once you get used to all that, it becomes super easy. So let's go to the desktop here. And this is the website for Wirecast, which is basically telestream.net. Telestream.net is telestream.net. Telestream.net. And of course, if you do a Google search on Wirecast, you'll find this page here. Works, like I said, on your Mac and your PC. You can get plugins, your camera. You can plug in your USB camera. You can plug in your FireWire camera. More powerful the camera, the better the look and the better the feel. There's a lot of people running this professionally on just this system. Prices start at $449. You can up that up all the way up to $1,000 for the special stuff. You get the HD encoder for an extra $100. Plus, they have a lot of other great products. If you're trying to run a studio, like episodes where basically you can take all your videos and put them in there, and then they'll run on like Ustream or Justin or something like that through this program, and you don't have to worry about you have Video Queue, which completes presentations. It's a complete presentation toolkit for the Macintosh. A lot of new programs that I'm just starting to learn about. Pipeline, network accessibility, video capture from tape or live sources. Agility and Avalon. You can produce and publish any video from any video source to any outlet. You got Flip for Mac, which is one of their famous ones. You can play, import, and export Windows media onto the Mac. And a whole bunch of other stuff. You can go over to telestream.com. But we're talking about Wirecast here. And that is this program right here. Basically, you can download it. You can download it for free. And, of course, they'll put in a watermark every 2 seconds. They'll say, this is Wirecast. And once you get the license, then you get that. You can get in there and get that professional area. I'm going to log in really quick, and I'm going to show you what happens in the download when you go for Wirecast. You download this. There's 2 programs you need to be concerned about. You have Wirecast for Mac or Windows, depends on which one you have. You might need a separate license. I'm not sure how they're doing the serial numbers just yet. but you download the one for your flavor of machine, and then you can also download this. This is called the Desktop Presenter. This is what allows you to show what's on your desktop or another desktop from another computer. Now, during this 5-part series, we're going to flip back and forth between Mac and PC, so you'll see the differences between Mac and PC, which is very little differences there. Now, for Mac OS, you need to have OS 10.5 or later. I'm running this on a MacBook Pro, which is an i7 processor running 2.3 gigahertz, and it does pretty well, even though the graphics card is a pretty good one in here. However, it works better on my desktop downstairs. Let's just put it that way, because it's more bang into the desktop. Intel-based Mac, minimum of 512 megabytes of RAM. Of course, you probably want to have 2 gigabytes worth of RAM into your machine. QuickTime 7 or higher, 200 megabytes of hard drive. For Windows side, you need to have Windows 7 processor, Windows Vista. You can use XP as long as it's on Service Pack 2. Have to have QuickTime 7.5. You got to have a 32. You can do 32 or 64-bit. It's going to run natively in 32-bit. You need a 2.3 gigahertz processor around there, 200 megabytes of hard drive, and 32 megabyte PCI Express graphics card with 3D acceleration. Now, the graphics card is pretty much the most important part of any of this setup, whether it be on a Mac or a PC, because that is what's going to create your video for you. And the more powerful graphics card you have, the more powerful your video is going to look. That's the bottom line right there. So, and of course, you need to have all the updates on there and a good internet connection. That's the most important thing. If you're decided, well, I'm going to put this up on Ustream, I'm going to put this up on Justin, you got to remember that the faster the internet pipe you have, the better, especially if you decide to go through more than one streaming option. If you go through one, like for instance, if you decide I'm going to go through Ustream and through Justin TV, well, you better have a pipe that can actually handle that, because we're talking at least 512 kilobits per second for each stream dedicated to push up and have a clear-cut push that will go to one and the other so you can record and look good. And then if you decide to stream to more than one device and record, that takes a lot of process on your computer. So a good machine. The machine I have downstairs is a quad-core machine. It's got 4 gigabytes of RAM in it, and it's got enough hard drive space. It's got a 1 gigabyte video card, which I've been thinking of upgrading to a larger. Did I say 1 gigabyte video card? Yeah, 1 gigabyte video card. And so I'm thinking of upgrading it to something that has a GPU, APU process to it. So it'll actually take most of the video from there. But anyway, that's it. If you have all that, and the desktop presenter, like I said, you want to have that ability to show your desktop or desktop of another computer, which is pretty cool there. So anyway, enough about that. Let's get back into Wirecast here. We're going to show you all the settings from Wirecast. Now, I'm showing you the actual screen, so you'll see this doubling. Like for instance, when I show you this screen, oops, right here, you'll actually see the screen. This is the window that happens when you install Wirecast on a Mac. Of course, like I said, we're on a Mac here. As you can see, up on top, you have your viewing area. You can actually make that into a viewing staging area, and we'll show you that in a little bit here. Down here is all your scenes. Now, I have shots, and I have the third shot right here, of course, is this one right here, and I can switch back to that. And then I go back to the desktop and go from there. I can choose a hard cut, or I can choose a really cool soft cut. Like for instance, I do smooth cuts, which means that it blends from here back over to here, so on and so forth. But if I want to have some really weird, some interesting cuts, I can change that. So watch this. Hey, how's it going? And then I can switch back. And then I can do squash. And then I can choose bar swipe transition. And then the one I've been really playing with is the one called Ripple, and that goes like this. which is pretty cool, I think. So anyway, so you have that all at your fingertips. You have this green button right here, the go, and then the green button. If you press that down, basically it's going to say that it doesn't automatically switch over. So you'll say okay here, and then if I want to switch over here, I get it ready, and then I hit go, and then of course it makes the switch over. And I hit go again, and it goes back. Now I turn that on. When that green light is on, then that means that it will automatically do that. I don't have to worry about that. This little timer right here will tell me how fast my transition goes. So I can go slow, like so, or I can go fast, like this. It makes for life for a lot easier. Very, very interesting. Very set up. Very, very cool. Very cool. So, and of course I can split this off. As you can see, I have a couple scenes in here that are blank screens. These are for other web cameras I don't have set up. Or I can set up a screen where I can actually do something like this, where I can put myself in the top corner, and there's usually something down below like that. And in fact, we'll get into that in a minute. But first of all, let's show you the basics of this, what we've got in Wirecast, and we're just going to go through the toolbar really quick, and that's showing you this puppy right here. Now we've got up here, of course, we got the Mac logo, and we go Wirecast. We've got About Wirecast, which tells us our versions, the preferences, which will then tell you basically where you enter in your serial number. Basic services, so you can make any type of adjustments. Normally you don't have to touch that stuff. Hide Wirecast, hide others, and then quit Wirecast, just like with a Mac. Up in your file, you can create a new, basically you can create a new, what's called a WCT file. I think that's the extension. Anyway, basically what it is when I create everything in here, all of this stuff over here are scenes. And those scenes will then, I can then switch back and forth. So I switch back and forth from here to here to here. And then I save this as special media feed scenes. And then I can create more scenes. And then I can load them up as I go. Like, for instance, if I'm in a special event for a company that I'm working with, I can create headers, I can create lower thirds, and then I can save it all there. And then next year, when I go back, I can turn around and I can use that same stuff because I've saved it in its own configuration file. One more thing before we get back into there, I forgot to talk about, and this is these master layers. And this is actually a pretty useful thing. I can create master layers of the same stuff. So if I'm using stuff on a constant basis, like for instance, this is the special media layer. I have over here, I have all my Geek Smack stuff. So when I do my show Geek Smack, you see you have all the scenes right there. And then of course I have some blank scenes, or blank layers, because I haven't gone into them and created other shows. So if you do more than one show, or you do different scenes or something like that, you switch to the next layer. And you can actually run layers upon layers. Like for instance, I can have this video, and let's do this. We'll blank this out. Now you can see. And you saw me from the other layer, but you couldn't hear me because I use a different audio source. But anyway, the bottom line is you have different layers, which is pretty cool. And so you can create different scenes, you can create different items. One more thing, and then we'll get back into the toolbar here. You have the audio sound, and we're going to play with that in a few minutes. You have the speaker. This is basically as a master mute, so if I turn it off, you couldn't hear me there, could you? I turned it back on. And then, of course, down here you have the headphones. This is interesting. Every time you go into Wirecast, I end up having to turn this off. Otherwise, you get some weird echo. But if you put it on, like that. So I usually turn that off. Or if you have a source where you have headphones in there, you can then use the headphones to do some master monitoring. It's perfect for something like if you're doing some sort of a Wirecast of a presentation or something like that. You can put the headphones in and you can monitor the sound levels to make sure that everything's okay. All right, let's get back in here. We went to the file area. We showed you the creating a new one. You can open up some of the existing ones that you have, and it just basically goes into your open area and looks for all that stuff. You can open your recent ones, of course, WCST, that's the configuration file, and then shows you my recent configuration file. You can import media. You can change your canvas size. You can save your WCST file, and of course you can close the window. Going over to edit, we have undo, which of course when you start doing some editing of your scenes, you can undo that really quick. Of course that's the Command Z on your keyboard. Redo, which is Shift Command Z. Edit shot, which is Command E, and that's slightly off the screen. So let me do this really quick, because I can. I just made a small little edit. You see everything shift over just a touch. So you have Command E for edit shot. You have Command R for renaming shot. That's all these shots right here. These little boxes down here. So as you can see on the top here, or you might not be able to see it. It might be too small. It's shot 1B, shot 1, new shot. I can rename them. I can edit them, so on and so forth. So let's get back up here. We've got add shot. You can delete a shot. That's any of these shots down in the bottom corner. And then you move to a layer. So you could create a shot and say, hey, I want this over in layer 3. And you can just move it right over to layer 3 from there. Now, we'll go over to switch from here. Switch is that exact same thing that I showed you earlier. You want to do a cut switch, you want to do a smooth switch or a ripple switch. You have auto live, which is that green button go. So if I press the auto live, once again, if I go to the next shot, I have to press go. And then if I want to go back to the other shot, and I have to press go, and that goes back there. So usually I have auto live on. It works for me a lot better. So let's move over to media. And we have, and that's of course also not showing off the screen. Let me just do this really quick. Thought I had this all figured out on how I was going to do this, but I just have to do a little bit of adjusting. So now we have media. We can start playing all the movies, which is basically all the shots there. We can pause all the movies. We can play to the next point. We can jump to previous point and create what's called the desktop presenter. That's seeing the desktop of your computer or another computer and stuff like that. Jumping to the next point and the previous points, we'll talk about that as we go, but just keep in mind that's how you do that. And then, of course, you can show the asset manager, which is that thing right there, which talks about what you have. I have a Logitech camera that I plug in here. I have some MP3s, some MP4s. It just has all the devices. Well, it didn't show that, did it? Okay, let's do that again. This is the asset manager right here. And it's showing that I have a couple movies. There's my Logitech camera up there. And I could assign them to something. So anything that's red, it's missing. So it's not seeing the Logitech camera. So I can then say, okay, I don't want you that as the Logitech camera anymore. I want it as question of the week.mp4. So on and so forth. So easy way for you to get in there and change things around. And that's in the media area. Now let's go over to sources here. Sources. Now this is where things get a little bit interesting. You can use other computers to be a part of your whole system. For instance, I can create a computer and I could put a webcam on it and I could put it upstairs, and then I hook it up into my network, and then I can I run the desktop presenter, and with desktop presenter I can actually see what's going on through that webcam. I can create an IP camera. So, and there are certain IP cameras that Telestream says that you can use that they've tested and so on and so forth. But IP cameras are just basically webcams that hook straight into the network, and as long as you're on the same node, you can access that IP camera. And what I mean on the same node means that if you have a wireless network and you have, let's say, 192.168.8.1, you can't expect to go to Joe's network, which is on 10.10.3.5 or something like that, and use that. You got to be on the same node, the same DNS settings, or not DNS settings, but primary IP settings. They've got to see, the computers have got to see each other basically. So, but an IP camera, you can put in an IP. If you have a tunnel program, you got your IP camera set up at your house. If you're in a coffee shop and you say, hey, I wonder what's going on my IP camera, and you can log in that way, you can set it up to do that too, which is pretty cool. You have the Teradek, which is all the system devices, source settings and stuff like that. Let's switch this back. So you can set up some Teradek's IP devices there as the same thing. You have the scoreboard, which is actually pretty cool. This is not a feature in the main version, the 449 version, but basically I can create a scoreboard onto one of my scenes, and I can say, okay, person A versus person B, and I want to, their person A is winning, so I keep giving them more points, and that's pretty cool. So we won't get into this too much on this one, since we're just showing all the buttons and stuff like that. And of course, new pipeline, just like everything else, you can have a desktop at home set up, and you can pipeline into that desktop and pull stuff out. And of course, you show your source settings. So you can, like for instance, if you have a webcam that can do some adjustments, change the contrast and stuff like that, you go into the source settings and fix that. All right, let's get back in here. We got broadcast. This is actually pretty cool. You got broadcast settings, which is where you're going to set up how your Justin.tv, how your Ustream, how you record to disk. Everything's done through the broadcast setting window. And I'm going to go into detail on the next episode about that, on how you set that all up. So we're going to cancel that for now. Back up in broadcast, you have start broadcast recording. So if you wanted to start a Flash Ustream channel, you can set that up, and that goes from there. You can do the stop and start recording. Of course, we're recording right now, and you can tell that you're recording right now is up on the top here. You have the broadcast and you have the record up on this up here. And if you press this down, you'll see little rings. I'm not going to do it because it'll actually go into a Ustream live channel, and I don't want to do that. But it'll start broadcasting. The recording, the little blue arrow says that it's on and it's recording this video. So, and of course I can do that up here the same way. And then of course external display output. If I had a external monitor to it, I can say, okay, I want to use that external monitor as to view what I'm doing. So, all right, let's go up to layout. We can do a preview, which basically what preview does, as you can see, there's two boxes here now. So when I switch back and forth, you'll see on the left, you'll see what I'm previewing and what goes to there. Now, if we turn off that auto go, then I can preview what I'm going to be seeing on the left side and what's playing right now on the right side. So if you're doing a producer role and you're not talking, this is a great way to kind of set up scenes and stuff like that, make sure everything's good before you switch to it. And then you hit the go button, and then it blends into the other scene. And then you go back and you hit the go button, and then that switches back to the other scene. And once again, I don't normally do that because I'm a one-person show, and it makes life a lot easier if I have a lot less buttons to worry about over there. So anyway, you have the master audio, which we'll do this really quick. You have the master audio, which is this thing right here. You can see the green bar going up and down. You have the main shot list, which is all these shots right here. In fact, I'll just turn it off, and you'll see it disappear. Oops. And then I'll turn it back on, and it comes back. You have the output statistics. That's up on top here. It's telling me how much CPU I'm using, how many frames per second I'm using, my data rate, the time, and that's gonna go back and forth, and it means to go back and forth, but you can read the statistics. If you're maxing out on something, then you need to make some changes. And then of course the layer panel, that's right over here, and you can close that out like that, and bring it back in like that. So, and then you can go to your layer, which is your master layer, your other layers, so on and so forth. All right. Finally, well, we have help, which is basically your help. If you have any questions, you can go into help. But you have window over here where you can minimize, you can zoom your window, you can do an inspector, and I think that's the pro version only. The audio inspector also a pro version. The encoder presets we're going to get into a little bit later in the future episodes. But this is where you set your data rate. This is where you set a higher quality shows if you want it in 4:3 as opposed to 16:9 or widescreen, so on and so forth. But these are all your presets right there. And then your camera preview. And then, of course, this is the scene I'm doing. I called it Blog World because that was the first one I did. But you can call it whatever you want. And that's pretty much it. That's the run-through of Wirecast and the program itself. Now, what we're going to do in episode 2 is we'll show you how to set up and get ready to produce your first video. And we'll make some scenes, and we'll create a couple lower thirds, and they'll have a whole bunch of stock lower thirds that you can go through. And then as we keep going, we'll talk about more stuff, like, for instance, how to make this customized lower third down here, how to use the scoreboards, how to use the switch between different cameras, maybe talk a little bit of lighting, not too much because this is not about creating the video itself. It's about things that you can do for Wirecast and go from there. So if you have any questions, any comments at all, feel free. My Twitter is Geekazine. My email is geekazine@gmail.com, geekazine@gmail.com, and you can get me there and talk and ask any questions that you like. If you like what you see, go over to YouTube, give me some stars, go over to Geekazine, whatever area you're watching this in, whether you're up on a over-the-top television source or whatnot, and give me some stars, review it, and tell me what's going on, what you like, what you don't like. So that's it. The other shows or episodes will be a little bit shorter. So, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about how to set up your frame rates, how to set up your shows, and get into some cool stuff in episode 2. So thanks a lot for watching. My name is Jeffrey Powers. Catch me over at www.geekazine.com. And until tomorrow, take care.